Welcome to the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce Special Focus Friday today. We have a program on rehiring and at the lake, and we have two individuals here, Kenny Colbert and Marilyn Celenza, Cunningham, and the queen of clean, I think we said about Marilyn. But before we get started, I want to acknowledge the board chair of the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, Richard Pappas.
Thank you, Bill. We appreciate everybody tuning in to watch another one of our programs. These are interesting times, and as such, your Chamber of Commerce is doing its best to try to educate and help our businesses, our members, and the greater community. And so we thank you for taking part, and a special thanks to Kenny and Marilyn for participating in this. I think it'll be great content, so thanks again. The Chamber of Commerce is focused right now on restarting Lake Norman. So we've got a guide on our website to kind of help businesses in that effort. We're very focused right now on re-employment of our community and also providing a safe environment for the employees and for their customers. So that's really been our focus lately. We've done a number of these type of events, and so please check out our website for additional content. As a banker, we've been working very diligently on the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. And so that is another way we're trying as a community to help each other out to reemploy our citizens. So with that, I'll say that if there's anything else that your chamber can do to help you, please reach out to Bill. He's always open to anything we can do to help businesses thrive at this time and all times. So I'll hand it back over to Bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Kenny Colbert is the president and CEO of the Employers Association. The Lake Norman Chamber has had a long relationship with the Employers Association for probably 25 years. It is the lead human resource consultant for corporations, larger businesses, and probably small businesses as well in all of the Charlotte region. Kenny is a resident of the town of Cornelius, and he's also been very engaged with our Lake Norman Healthcare collaborative that we've recently started up. But Kenny, I'll tell you, one of the things that you and I were discussing, I've received a lot of phone calls from Chamber of Commerce members, be it in the hospitality industry, retailers, corporations, small businesses who have restarted, and now they're having a dilemma, and some of those employees are not coming back. Some of them think they're gaining benefits by staying at home. Some of them are concerned about coming back to work. But tell me, Kenny, share with us, what can an employer do if an employee is unwilling at this time to come back?
Well, Bill, there are several parts to that question that I need to address. And the first part is the unemployment issue. And we're receiving a lot of calls about this where employees are making equal or more money staying at home than they are working. And, you know, the CARES Act kicks in that extra $600 a week. So that's a nice benefit for people. There are several things that you can do. If an employee just blatantly says, you know, I'm not coming back to work, I'm making more money in unemployment than I was working, so I'm not coming back. The employer can, in essence, force an ultimatum and say, I've got a job for you. I need for you to be back on X date to do your job. If not, I will consider that as a voluntary resignation. And by the way, we'll be contacting the Department of Employment Security and we'll be denying you benefits. And so that's legitimate to be able to do that. So you can play hardball with the employee that if you want. The other side of that is there are not many employees who are being that blatant. Very few are saying, I'm not coming back because I can make more money. What they're saying is, I'm very concerned about coming back to work because of health concerns, et cetera. So I want to stay out a little bit longer. And that's a little bit different animal there, that it's going to involve some dialogue with the employees. What are your concerns? Do you have any type of underlying health conditions, et cetera? So tell me why you want to stay out longer. And from an employer standpoint, I would take that a step further and have conversations with them. I say, so are you sheltering in place 24 hours a day? Are you going to the grocery store? Are you going to see family members, et cetera? So in essence, if you're leaving your home to go to other places, I really don't see why you can't leave to come to work. But that brings up another question is the company doing everything to make the employee be safe? Are you following the recommended guidelines by OSHA and CDC and other agencies, et cetera? So if you are following the guidelines and the employee just says, I'm scared, I'm concerned, then really I think you probably have about three options. And very quickly, option one is you can tell the employee, okay, we will let you stay out on unemployment a little bit longer. And when you feel comfortable, let us know and you can come back to work. But quite honestly, if you tell one employee that, you may have other employees who want to jump on that bandwagon and say, well, I want to stay home too. So you've got a bigger problem. What may be a better solution is you tell the employees, I'm going to put you on an unpaid leave of absence. You know, I've got work available for you. You're voluntarily choosing to stay home. So I'm going to put you on an unpaid leave of absence for a period of time, and you let me know when you're ready to come back to work. But by the way, I've got to fill your job. So when you're ready to come back to work, if I have something available for you, I'll be happy to offer it to you, but we'll address that issue, you know, in a few weeks. The third option is you play hardball with the employee and you simply say, no, I've got a job available. I know you're scared, but we've got all the safety precautions in place. So you come back to work by X date, or we consider that a voluntary resignation. Now, the third part is a little bit trickier. Let's say you have someone with underlying health conditions. Let's say they're a cancer survivor. They've got diabetes. They've got chronic high blood pressure, et cetera. Those people may very well be protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And if your company has 15 or more employees, you're covered. They may very well be covered under the Family Medical Leave Act. So if you've got 50 or more employees, that law would apply. So I think the questions need to be on the order of, are you voluntarily choosing to stay home, or are you staying home under doctor's orders? Did you have a note from a physician that says you can't come back to work? And will that physician let you come back to work with certain conditions? You know, what type of accommodations do we need to make for you? Do we need to separate you from the other employees? Do we need some plexiglass shields? Do we need more frequent sanitizing, et cetera? So what ADA requires you to do is to engage in an interactive conversation with the employee. So the employer and the employee talk about potential accommodations. So really, that's kind of the highlights, the three things. You've got some people who just don't want to come back to work because of unemployment. You've got some people coming back to work because of their perceived fears. And then you've got people refusing or not wanting to come back to work because of their legitimate health concerns. And you need to look at each of those separately.
We were discussing the other day that many businesses were shelter in place, that they were not operating, and now most of us through phase 2 have started back in some shape or form. And we're hearing employees saying, okay, I even had one of my employees, Sylvia, had planned on taking a vacation trip in April, which they were going to the beach, and that got shoved into, okay, now I'm going to take it in June. Now she's finding out with some of the protests going on, road blockage and things, maybe not, now's not the time either. But you have employees now coming back and wanting to take vacations in a very small window of time. I know you guys have recently surveyed your membership. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. You know, this has been the new question. It seems that every week there's a new question that comes up. You know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was all related to unemployment. 6 or 8 weeks ago, it was related to emergency paid sick leave and emergency FMLA. Now these vacation questions are coming up for the last week or so. And you think about it, March, April, May, early part of June, you know, that's prime vacation time. And a lot of people have either not been working or they've been working from home. But bottom line is they haven't been able to go anywhere. And now that things are opening up, you can go to the beach and some hotels are more available, et cetera. So people are saying, you know, I want to take some vacation. So it puts a company in a dilemma of a couple of things. Is number one, some companies required their employees to use their PTO time over the past 8 or 10 weeks. So what are they going to do when an employee comes up maybe this summer or this fall and says, I want to take a few days off. I've not had any vacation, but I have no paid time. Are you going to let them take unpaid time? Or are you going to be a little bit more flexible with your policies and give them some paid time off, et cetera? That's a decision that has to be made. The other thing is, what are you going to do when multiple employees want off on the same week? Let's face it, they've lost 10 weeks of vacation time. Everybody's clamoring to go somewhere. So what are you going to do when half of your staff wants to take off the 4th of July to go on vacation? So a lot of companies haven't even thought about that, and they're now trying to say is we're going to ration the number of people. X amount of people per week can be off, and that's a legitimate thing to do there. Here's another one, and actually we've had this call to come up several times. You've got an employee who hasn't worked at all. They've not even been working home, so they've been on furlough for the last 10 weeks. They come back to work and they work 2 weeks and they say, by the way, I want to take a week of paid vacation. And you're going, my goodness, you've been home for 10 weeks and now you work 2 weeks and you want a week of paid vacation. That kind of leaves a sour taste in the employer's mouth to some degree. You have to remember this, under North Carolina wage and hour laws, if you promise vacation to an employee, you have to either let them use their vacation time or you have to pay them out for their vacation time. But nowhere does the law say you have to let the employee use that vacation when he wants to. So in essence, if somebody has 2 or 3 weeks available to use by the end of the year, the company can mandate you use it when we want you to use it, not when you want to use it. And that's a big employee relations issue. It's going to create some conflicts in the workplace. But these are things that employers need to be thinking about. You mentioned a survey. We did a survey last week with 160 local employers responding. And in essence, 37% of the employers said, we are very concerned about being able to operate our business with vacations in the coming weeks, et cetera. And in essence, 73% of the employers have procedures in place so that multiple people can't take vacation, or you schedule your vacation according to the company's preferences, et cetera. So if you've not done it, we highly encourage you, be thinking about what are you going to do the 4th of July, Labor Day, the popular weeks, et cetera. What are you going to do when multiple people want vacation?
Richard Pappas alluded to a document that we have on our website at lakenormanchamber.org. It's a restart guide that we worked with in collaboration with the Wilmington Chamber of Commerce and the Carolinas Association Chamber of Commerce executives that pulled together a great deal of information from A to Z, from retail companies, veterinarians, a whole variety, hotels, about every industry you can think of is represented there, and ways to keep your office and your store sanitized and clean for your employees, for your customers, and your clients. One of the companies that we have is a member of the Chamber of Commerce, Marilyn, Celenza, Cunningham. She is my past Rotary president, very engaged in the community. Marilyn, share with people who are watching, first off, what does your business do? And then what are some of the things that you and other cleaning companies recommend for our businesses, be they retail or office environment?
Thanks so much, Bill. So happy you included me in this. Good Clean Fund has been in business for 24 years, and our main focus primarily was to clean, repair, and inspect playgrounds for McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Burger King. Since they have all gone to drive-through, my business has somewhat evaporated. But if any of you know me, I'm kind of a cleaning nerd. I read everything I can on cleaning. So I want to clarify a couple things. If you own a business, there are 2 different steps that the CDC recommends. One is cleaning and the other is disinfecting. It's a 2-part. It's not just, oh, I wipe something down with Clorox wipes or whatever. So it is a two-part process. The first thing I would recommend that any business do prior to opening to the public is do an audit of the area that your employees, that your customers will be in. What that entails is you may notice some places that in the past you never thought twice about, like a handle of a coffee pot, in a lunchroom, the handle on a refrigerator, at a back door where people go out to smoke, that's constantly being touched. So you're going to have to do an audit of places, commonly touched surface areas. And the first step, of course, is cleaning. Cleaning means you're scrubbing things, you're wiping things down. The second step would be disinfectants. I love it when people say, oh yeah, I disinfected and it's all green, and no such thing. The EPA must approve any type of disinfectant. Actually, they go through, when I had my disinfectant approved, it was a long drawn out process. They didn't like the labeling. There's just a lot to it. Recently, I just learned if you're using a product in your environment, you can find out if in fact it is approved to kill COVID-19. And what you do is you will actually look at, on any kind of disinfectant is an EPA registration number, and you're gonna put in the first 6 digits into the EPA, and it will tell you, it will automatically tell you that product is approved for COVID-19. There are some other things that I think are important just to note is they have found particulates of COVID-19. It's a respiratory disease. It can last up to 3 hours in the air. On hard surfaces, it can last up to 2 to 3 days. The last statistic I found released by CDC is they have found the virus alive and on soft surfaces up to 17 days. So that creates an interesting problem because if you are using, some of the best disinfectants are hydrogen peroxide, but it has to be used in the right dilution or else it can be very corrosive. Bleach is great. We all know it's very inexpensive, but you cannot use it on so many soft surfaces because it's going to damage materials, drapes, upholstery, things like that. The alcohol also, isopropyl alcohol will kill COVID-19, but you have to know what you're using it on. If you own a clothing store and you've had somebody that has been identified that had COVID-19 and came in your store, what are you going to do? I have just recently, there, but for the grace of God, was able to purchase a couple particulate foggers that you can put a disinfectant solution in. It's such a fine mist, it kills everything, but it doesn't leave a residue. It doesn't soak things down. It's not like what you're seeing on the streets of Shanghai where they're got pump sprayers and they're just putting everything everywhere, which I wonder what they're putting in there because I would have some environmental concerns, but they're not as regulated as we are. But you know, there are some things you can do to protect yourself. Read your labels. Read the labels. If you're using tea tree oil, it's not going to kill a virus. I'm sorry. It smells good, and it is an antibacterial. But know what products you're using, and you know, I'm always available. Anybody can call me and I can give you the statistics, but CDC is a very, very good resource of, and they have it broken down into different industries, what you might do, what you're required to do. If you have an overnight facility, your requirements are different than if you have a retail outlet. If you are in a medical facility, your requirements are very different than if you have a school environment where nobody's staying overnight. So, you know, it's a slippery slope right now. Just do the best you can.
Well, again, we have a fantastic guide on our website at lakenormanchamber.org. It's called ReStartLKN. It talks about those procedures that Marilyn was just citing. That information was taken from the CDC. So we encourage you to go there. We have a great deal of chamber members who are in the cleaning industry. So we have a list of them also. We encourage you to contact our cleaning companies. Marilyn, you're a cleaning company. Can you share your contact information?
Sure. If you want to know anything about our new microparticulate disinfecting fogging, which can be used in any environment, you can go to our website, which is goodcleanfunproducts.com. You can call us at 704-599-9079, and we will get you set up. And or you can just email either Maria or Marilyn at Good Clean Fun Products, and we can help you out in any of your needs you might have.
And your website?
It is goodcleanfunproducts.com.
Thank you. Kenny, while we have you, and again, thank you so much for taking the time, both you and Marilyn this morning, but are any other issues that, while we have you, that may not be necessarily related to COVID-19, any issues that you find that your employers or businesses are reaching out to you about? Any topics that are hot button topics right now?
Yeah. Before I do that, let me come back to some things that Marilyn said, and I think she gave some great comments there. These documents from CDC and also from OSHA, great resources, and the ones from CDC are broken out, as you said, whether you're manufacturing, retail, service, hospitality, et cetera, they're broken out by different ways. You have to remember, these are just recommended guidelines. They're not laws. But Marilyn brought up a very good point. I think every company needs to do a risk assessment and see where they are vulnerable. Because quite honestly, if you have an outbreak at work, you are at risk from negligence charges. And we read in the paper, I've not seen this happening locally yet, but we've been reading about it on a national basis where firms are being sued for not taking care of their employees. But in essence, if you can say, I have followed CDC's guidelines, I have followed OSHA's guidelines, and you do have an outbreak, this could help you minimize the effects of that. And the other thing we really have to worry about is workers' compensation. And there's a lot of legislation going on about that. There's legislation going on at the federal level about immunity from civil liability, et cetera. But if one person at your workplace gets infected by COVID, and then several days, and maybe that person, they picked it up from a relative or something like this, they come to work. 2 days later, another employee gets infected. Did that second employee get it from the first employee, or did they get it at the grocery store? But the way the things are headed now, this could be workers' compensation related, et cetera. So the next thing you know, you've got a half dozen workers' comp claims filed against you, as well as potential legal action. So you need to be very, very careful and follow these guidelines. And again, they're not laws, they're recommendations, but take them to heart because they can be your salvation. One other COVID-related issue, there have been some benefits changes that the IRS has announced. That in essence, if you have offered health insurance to your employees and you offer multiple plans, you can now make mid-year changes to your plan rather than having to wait to the end of the benefit year. You know, a lot of your employees have flexible spending accounts and dependent care accounts. And a lot of people aren't using their dependent care money right now because they're staying home with the kids, et cetera. The laws have changed it so that you can make mid-year changes to your deductions. You can either increase them or decrease them. And the last thing is, when the Affordable Care Act first came into place, it took away over-the-counter medications and flexible spending accounts. You know, you used to be able to go to the drugstore, and if you needed to buy Tylenol or whatever, you could use your flexible spending account for that. Affordable Care Act took that away. Well, that's now back into place, effective a few weeks ago. And even feminine hygiene products are now covered under this as well. So over-the-counter medications, feminine hygiene products are now going to be eligible for reimbursement under flexible spending accounts. So that's a big change that employers need to be aware of. The other thing that we're hearing a lot about are just wage and hour concerns. You've got still employees that are working from home. A lot of them are non-exempt employees. And you think about it, a lot of these people who are working from home, you know, they may work an hour or two on corporate work, and then they do family household work, and then they go back to do something else, and then they teach school for a couple of hours and do homework, etc. As someone told me the other day, he said, it takes me 16 hours to do 8 hours worth of work with all of the things that I'm juggling. Something that we're going to see coming out of the woodwork here in the next few weeks are going to be wage and hour claims, where people say, I haven't been adequately accurately compensated for my work at home. So encourage your employees, you know, to keep their own time records, etc. So, you know, I worked from 8 to 9. I did laundry from 9 to 10. I taught school from 10 to 11. I did work from 11 to 2, etc. So you need to keep very accurate time records on your employees, your non-exempt employees who are working from home. The last issue is, and this is, it can be a legal issue, but it's more of an employee relations issue, is bringing people back to work. And let's face it, very few companies are bringing everybody back at once. They're phasing people back in. You think about the restaurants. They're operating at 50% capacity. They don't need the number of employees that they had back in February. So how do you pick the people that you're bringing back to work versus the people that you're going to let stay out a little bit longer? And you need to base it upon business necessity, you know, skill set of the people, the number of jobs that they can perform. Just make sure that you're not doing it because of an age, race, sex, religion type factor. But I think you're going to see a lot of EEOC charges and other claims coming out. Is either I was selected for layoff because of my age, race, sex, or I wasn't brought back because of my age, race, sex. But as long as you can have a legitimate business reason, you know, Bill Russell has the following skills and I needed him back today. Marilyn had lesser skills and I let her stay out a few more weeks. So Marilyn's going to have a real hard time saying, well, that's sex discrimination, as long as you base it on job-based criteria.
Kenny, that's really good information, and thank you for sharing that. Marilyn, going back to you before we close out, is there anything else you think our businesses can be doing to provide a safe atmosphere for their customers and clients and employees?
I think one of the main things is to provide information of what the steps are that you are doing. You can be practicing all these things, and it's okay in this particular environment to tout every single thing you're doing. And it doesn't have to be standard verbiage. First National Bank, we're going out of our way. We're not just wiping everything down. Every night we go through and we disinfect every surface. Go ahead and kind of brag on what you're doing to make your environment safe. You know, get rid of the standard signs, you know, have those there, I'm sorry, but go ahead and tell people what you are doing above and beyond. You know, we keep the doors open, this is why. You know, we are at night doing extra steps. We've contacted and we've contracted with an outside firm that has a better skill set than we do in making sure that the disinfection process is really happening. So I would recommend businesses really make their customers and their employees also feel very safe and secure in what they're doing to protect them and to, you know, practice safe hand washing. You know, we do it, you know, every hour or every time we handle money or every time we open a door. You know, this is what we do. So I think you need to kind of tout what you're doing to make sure that you're keeping everyone safe.
Thank you. Kenny, Marilyn, first off, thank you for being here this morning. We had a wonderful program earlier this week. We took 7 of our Lake Norman regional retailers in Huntersville, Cornelius, Davidson, and Morrisville. And they shared what they did during the shelter in place because these retailers were not considered essential businesses. Although you mentioned Bill Russell. Bill Russell considers all of my businesses are essential businesses, but many of them were not able to open up. And so they talked about what they did during the shelter in place to communicate with their customers. Some having going into their office but being the only one there, and maybe doing a Facebook Live about keeping in contact, sending the emails, heavily utilizing social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And now that we're into phase 2, they talked about the precautions that they're putting in place to make sure that they're a clean, sanitized, disinfected environment for their customers to shop. And I've traveled around to some of those stores. I've seen the customers coming back, some of them electing to wear face masks inside. Most of all of those retailers are masked themselves, but they want to make sure it's a safe shopping environment. And again, if you're able to come out and support our local businesses, we encourage you to do so. If you're uncomfortable doing that, we encourage you to shop online, or maybe in some cases they're still having curbside delivery that you can pick up your stuff. But again, we encourage everybody to continue supporting our local businesses. That program, the Special Business Works with their retailers, is on our website at lakenormanchamber.org, and you can see those businesses and the links they're taking to protect their customers and clients. Before we sign off, First National Bank is one of the banks that did a tremendous job with the Paycheck Protection Program. Heard a lot of compliments, Richard, about FNB. I know you're not here to plug your particular institution, but I'll leave it with you to close us out today.
Thank you. You know, we do try to provide the level of service that our customers deserve and our community deserves. So we're trying to work with businesses. We're doing payment deferrals when necessary. We're, you know, stepping in, and I think all banks and all businesses are trying to work together to make that tide rise. So I would just encourage all of us to use our local businesses and just continue to work together to try to get through this. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Richard. Thank you, FNB. Thanks to all of our banks that did a tremendous job helping our local businesses stay in place. And I want to thank, our speakers. Marilyn, thank you. Kenny, thank you for taking the time this morning. Thank you, everybody that's watching, and continue to go out there and shop the lake. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you.